Hello and welcome to episode 170 of First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, as always, Shanine. How you doing?
Pretty good. So pumped to be here.
We're, we'll get there in a second. And also with us is Emma.
I
And I feel like we definitely have high energy cast going on tonight, but we have some great stuff to talk about. It is indeed things, but listeners, we're happy.
am alive and well.
Yes.
That is the good thing.
Yes. Today, for the cast, we got volcanoes, we got true stories, we got space, and then we got our top 3 spin-offs to wrap it all up. And as always, listeners, you can find us as First Geek 411 on all of the social medias. You can join the Discord server if you want to chat with us between shows. You can send us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. You can check out our show notes on the website, 1geek411.com. You can watch live Monday night, 6:45 Mountain Time on twitch.tv/1geek411, and then catch the videos over on YouTube and podcast services around the world. Then you can also check out the Redbubble store. Let's go ahead and get into it. Emma, what have you been up to this past week?
Lots of reading because I've been bored. I've been reading Neverwhere, which is our book club book of the month, and I've been loving it. I'm about halfway through, a little over halfway through. First time read through, great impression so far. We'll get to that later. So, as well as Wheel of Time, book 6 of 14.
14.
So,
You're getting there.
I'm almost halfway there.
I believe.
But at this point, I'm making great headway. So that's a great accomplishment in my book. I've been drawing on the walls some more at my mother's basement. So I'm almost done with the sketch of Calvin and Hobbes that I've been working on for like a year now. And I realized at some point this week that I only made it halfway through The Last of Us, Part 1. So I've been working my way through the second half to actually finish the game.
Nice.
So that's what I've been up to.
How are you liking
I
The
like
Last
it.
of Us?
I'm liking. Very much so. I think I'm almost to the well-known part where I get to pet a giraffe.
Ooh,
So
nice.
I'm pretty excited about that. Just ran into some monkeys that were experimented on. So yeah.
I'm going to be honest. One of my biggest gaming disappointments is that I missed the giraffes.
Really?
Going through The Last of Us. I messed up.
Did you just not explore enough?
Yep. Completely missed it.
Bummer, dude.
Yep.
I didn't know there were giraffes.
Yeah.
Now I know what to look out for when
Yep.
I play it.
Yep. I was super sad when I found out. I saw people post pictures of it, and I was like, what? So,
Poke around enough and you'll find them.
yep. Mistakes were made.
Yep.
What are you drawing on the walls?
So you know that scene of Calvin and Hobbes walking across the log?
Mm-hmm.
That one.
Nice.
It's like as big as my face. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's actually bigger than my face, but yeah.
Shanine, what have you been up to?
Well, last Tuesday I streamed Pokemon Snap.
What? Where did you
Sure.
stream that?
First Geek 411
Whoa, crazy.
on Twitch. What? It's my first time streaming and my first time playing Pokemon Snap. So, very exciting night.
What are your first impressions?
My first impressions are it is super chill and exactly my kind of game, and everyone is so cute.
Yeah, we established that the professor is Michael Scott.
Pretty much.
Like I feel like just from watching you play that there's no way he hasn't said, I love inside jokes. I hope to be a part of one someday. Like There's no way he hasn't said that.
He's trying very hard,
Yeah.
and everyone around him is far too sassy and
Yeah.
just doesn't have time for it.
Yeah. He feels like is there a doctor on the plane? And he's like, I have a degree in English. It's like, that's cool, but
Not what we're looking
not quite what we're asking for.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. No, it's fun. I'm excited to play again tomorrow night.
What time?
At twitch.tv/onegeek411 at approximately 6:45 Mountain Standard Time.
Nice.
I have staken my claim on Thursdays for streaming Subnautica, but I will not be streaming this Thursday for other planned reasons. And by that, I mean I was born on Thursday. So, I will not be streaming on Thursday. 'cause
Happy
I will
rotation
be
of the Sunday.
Celebrating. Yay! The planet was in this position when
Yes,
you
that's
came
it.
into existence.
That's what it is. I couldn't remember the.
The planet was in this position when you came into existence.
Well,
So,
happy early
next
birthday.
Thursday. Thanks. Cameron, what have you been up to?
Oh, Shanine's got some more.
Oh, wow.
Oh, Shanine, what have you been up to? I'm just trying to fill the gap.
I didn't know how to segue out of the birthday.
Shanine, what have you been up to?
So, I finished watching The Serpent. It's so good.
What is this about? I haven't heard. I think I've heard of this, but I have no clue what it is.
Yeah. So, I started watching it because Jenna Coleman was in it, and I'd been hearing about it on her Instagram when she was like filming and stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I have to watch this. I have no clue what it's about, but Jenna's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is about a serial killer in Southeast Asia in the 70s. It's a really interesting story. One of the Dutch ambassadors there is kind of the only one who cares about the case and is trying to get him.
Gotta get him.
Get him.
Get him good.
And yeah, it's based on a true story, so
Where
very
can one
cool.
watch said show?
Netflix.
Great.
Yes. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I will add that to my list because, as we'll get to eventually with mine, this also is on Netflix. You should not be watching. So, we'll just drop
And
that
yeah.
tease.
It's a limited series, so it's like 8 episodes that are an hour long each.
Nice.
Is it a Netflix original?
I can't remember.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know. I know that it came out in the UK first, and I had to wait forever. I don't know. And then also this week, one of my RPG groups, we're doing a Cthulhu campaign. We're supposed to have our first session, but some people couldn't make it, so we did more planning and stuff. I'm very excited for it. We have put our setting in Denmark, in Odense, Denmark, and then we spent basically the entire night just like Google Mapsing around Odense to see what cool landmarks and stuff there were. There's a pub called the Tipsy Toad.
Nice.
Which is 100% going to be the front for our secret society.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other cool like museums and stuff, and like Hans Christian Andersen's house and
What system is it that you're using?
GURPS.
Nice. I've never used that one before.
I have a very long time ago. It is slightly more confusing than D&D, but probably just because I don't have as much experience.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of how a lot of those systems go, where it's just like that you get used to your one, and then like just kind of adjusting out of it. Like I mean, even like with board games, like I feel like that's a challenge of it's like, well, this is how it works in this other game that I'm way more familiar with.
Yeah, I think everything's kind of backward in GURPS. Like instead of rolling and like adding your modifier to it and trying to get like a high number, you have your number threshold that you want to roll under.
So you're like trying to go low.
Yeah. But yeah, with damage, you still want to roll high. It's like usual damage rolls. So my DM keeps saying, so no matter how your dice like to roll, eventually it's going to work out for you.
Perfect. Well, for me, I got two great things, then one awful thing. So, the first thing is I started playing Hollow Knight, which I've had forever, but I was looking for an off-stream game since I'm streaming God of War on Sundays. And so I started playing that, and I've really been enjoying it. It's a great Metroidvania. And so, like, you're going around, like, and then, like, as you collect new powers, you can access new areas, stuff like that. So that's a lot of fun. I feel like I'm going to start using a guide, mostly because I'm tired of trying to find the areas that I can now access after I get new powers.
Huh.
And so I feel like I'm going to start like having some sort of map to follow because of that. Because I feel like I found a boss and then I died and I couldn't find my way back. And I have no clue what area I was in. And I can't get back there. So
It sounds like, oh geez, that one game by Thunder Lotus.
Sundered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like that.
Yep. Very, very much.
I had the same struggles with Sundred.
Yeah.
Love the game, but it was constantly like, how did I get there? I don't know.
So yeah, I've really been enjoying it. But like I said, it's just I've played for about 8 hours, and I feel about 2 hours of that have been wandering the map trying to find out where to go next in various periods of the playthrough. So like not all like in 1 2 hour chunk, but it'll be like a 30-minute. Okay, where am I going? Okay, looking around. Okay, found it. Now I'm lost again, or now I did that thing, and now I got to figure out where else to go, like that kind of stuff. And so. But yeah, like I said, really enjoyed it. Looking forward to playing more of it. But the next thing, and this is like the must watch, highest recommendation. Shanine said The Serpent was 10 out of 10. This is an 11 out of 10. Take that, The Serpent. And that's The Mitchells versus the Machines.
So I started watching this based on your tweets, and then immediately stopped it because I decided I wanted to watch it on my birthday.
Nice.
Because I just went, I can relate with this
Yes.
kid. I'm going to wait.
So the reason Emma can relate to this kid is it's because it's about someone about to start film school when the robot apocalypse happens.
I'm just like, yeah, okay. I'm
So-
gonna hold off here.
Yeah. So I definitely thought of you throughout this movie.
Yeah.
But it's also on Netflix, and like I said, it's about the Mitchell family fighting off the robot apocalypse.
They're a rather dysfunctional family, from what I gathered.
Yes, that would be putting it mildly. They are a great family, but man, they are interesting. But it gets into like social media culture, tech stuff, and I mean, obviously, like family is a big part of it. It's from the people that did Into the Spider-Verse and the Lego movie. And so, like, I like legitimately laughed out loud several times throughout the movie. Like, it's like genuinely hilarious. And yeah, I cannot recommend it highly enough. I think it's like almost 2 hours, and it's a great way to spend 2 hours. So everybody should go check it out. It is on Netflix, at least in the United States. Sorry, Shanine.
No, it is.
Okay.
It is. Yeah, I saw the Netflix ads and stuff for it and was like 0% interested in watching it. And then I saw you post about it being by the Into the Spider-Verse people, and suddenly I'm like 110% interested.
It's really funny because I feel like that's been so many people's like experience with this movie is the like I had not heard about it at all, but Deanna had seen people post on social media saying, "Hey, go watch this." And so like, but like it's very much been that like word of mouth of like I've seen. I mean, granted, I don't really watch commercials, so like that's probably on me. But like I feel like I haven't seen this on social media. I haven't seen this like in ads anywhere, and it's just out and it's amazing, and like people need to go watch it. So again, cannot recommend highly enough. The other thing I cannot not recommend low enough, whatever the opposite of that is. And that
unrecommend.
Yes, I would recommend you not watch this. And that's Cursed on Netflix. Have y'all seen this?
I've heard about it.
Okay. So what if we took all of the hype that was behind The Witcher and we set up a cool magical world and then we just did awful?
So all of the potential.
Yeah.
Without the execution.
Exactly. Like it's based on Arthurian legend, and like Merlin's in it. He's interesting, but he's not like the main character, which is cool. But we watched the first episode, and I'm not gonna say it was like the worst thing I've ever watched by any means, but there is the straw that broke the camel's back for me is towards the end of the first episode. There's a fight scene, and the main character is like running around, and as she's doing so, in the middle of the fight, where she's magical and could just use magic, as she's running around, somebody on the other side starts riding up to hit her with their axe, and he like pulls his arm back and then puts his arm down and just keeps riding. And it was just like, what? And like just like the choreography,
they just decided not to.
Yeah, the choreography was just like, don't. I guess they might have been like supposed to swing over her or something, and they just didn't swing, and that made it in. But it's one of those things that kind of feels like a whole bunch of it, like again, that's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah. But like, there's a whole lot of that kind of stuff in it, where it's just like, okay, but this was not thought out. Like, another one is there's a scene. I should look up the main character's name because I feel bad for not knowing it. Where she's like in a bar, Nimue, Nimue, is the main character. Where she's like in this bar with this person who I think is supposed to be Arthur, and they're like playing dice, and the person like obviously has loaded dice, and she uses magic to get the roll that she would get so she could win. And the person's like, it's like, you're a witch. It's like, no, duh. Like, you're in a world of magic and you're gambling with loaded dice. Like, I feel like there's no way that this person has not thought about how magic could easily wreck this before. And it's like, there's just like a lot of like world building stuff like that it's like, these were choices.
Okay, so I did see this on Netflix and I did add it to my list to watch. But based on your recommendations, I'm probably not going to waste my time.
Yeah. I would love to be like, oh, it gets better, but we couldn't bring ourselves to watch a second episode.
Yeah.
I've heard that it doesn't.
Yeah, that was our assumption. Like,
I really wanted it to be good because I also wanted it. Wanted to watch it, like Arthurian legend with a female hero. Like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Apparently.
The CGI seems really cool for what it is. Like, it's just like it feels like they focused on the like elevator pitch of it, not focused on the actual plot or choreography or those types of things. And so
I would like to add that apparently I did also watch the first episode, but I don't remember any of it, so that must also be a testament
Yeah.
to the quality of the show.
So take that as you will.
The film person does not remember watching
Yeah.
the first episode of this show.
Yeah, this is the type of show that if I was going to do an endurance challenge to raise money for charity,
You would
this is the
lose.
type of thing that would get brought up, that I would have to watch and endure to make it through. But okay. So that's what we've been up to. Listeners, let us know what you've been up to. And let's go ahead and get into what we have for our discussion topics for this week. Emma, why don't you start us off?
Volcanoes on Mars. So apparently, I like space, which should be a little bit obvious. It's apparently NASA. I almost said NASA.
NASA.
Who is currently exploring Mars. It's like one of their new studies suggests that volcanoes on Mars could still be relatively active, whereas we thought that they were all done, like no longer present or active. As it turns out, there's evidence that states that they were active as close back as 50,000 years ago in the grand scheme of space and whatever. Like, that's pretty close for a volcano to be active. And that suggests that there could still be active volcanoes on the planet of Mars, which is pretty cool. And this could suggest, apparently, there was something about what that then means for Mars as a planet and its development. That may have been a different article that I read that I did not link into the show notes. But it's pretty cool because it means that plates are shifting and the planet's moving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, we're going to spew some hot rock at you.
So I want to call out that the article that you linked says a new study has been published in Icarus. It's like, I have my doubts.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to name your scientific journal Icarus,
yeah.
like, you're the type of scientific journal that would definitely try to clone dinosaurs
Yeah.
and would then lead to like that is like the satirical, like super like literary, like scientific journal that all the bad things happen from in the movies. So like, we're clearly on the darkest timeline.
To be fair, they do also reference an article on /by CNN. So just to balance out the
right.
Like,
It's just one of those of like, I'm not calling out like the article you wrote, or that you linked, just the scientific journal that like published this. They're the ones on blast.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So scientists had believed much of the planet's volcanic activity occurred between 3 and 4 billion years ago. So B as in bike. Along with some isolated eruptions about 3 million years ago. But now evidence is saying as recently as 50,000 years ago, which is considerably sooner to now than
3 to 4 billion.
3 to 4 billion.
Yeah.
And the occasional 3 million. So, yeah, that just means that the surface of the planet is still probably in construction, if you will. And very much opinionated about itself. So
also, that would be the best and worst way for our rover to get wrecked.
yeah.
It's like, we thought the volcanoes were done, and then one went off and destroyed the rover.
Turns
Oops.
out they were not.
That's our bad.
The researchers believe the evidence matches a pyroclastic eruption. Let's see what that word
clearly,
means.
as any small child knows, it's obviously whatever that was.
Let's do a mini vocabulary lesson here.
Yeah.
Pyroclastic flows move fast and destroy everything in their path,
Such as the rover.
such as the rover.
It's all coming together.
They contain a high density mix of hot lava blocks, pumice, ash, and volcanic gas. They move at very high speed down volcanic slopes, typically following valleys. So these are the potential types of
So affected by gravity. Got it.
affected by gravity.
Like
These are the kinds of volcanic eruptions you can maybe picture in your head that would be occurring on the planet of Mars.
So if y'all could go to Mars, would you want to go?
Yes.
Sure.
Why not?
You might end up eating potatoes the whole rest of your life,
I
which
mean-
I would die if that was where I was. But
Hey, just send me with some salt and hot sauce, and I'll be set.
I'll persevere. But yeah, I feel like space travel is like that thing where it's like, this would be really cool, but I've also seen enough sci-fi that like, here we
I
are.
Yeah, I'd like to go, but also at the same time, I'd be like, send like 100 other missions ahead of me
Yes.
to like proof through it first, and then I'll go. I will not be your guinea pig, but I would love to go.
I feel like hypothetically I'd like to go.
Yeah.
In reality, it depends what we're talking exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the idea, but it's like I like the idea of AI, but
Yeah.
I've also seen enough sci-fi to know how poorly this goes. So, oh man, Janine, what do you got for us?
Okay. I'm just gonna keep talking about the serpent because I haven't watched anything like that in a while. And I love that kind of stuff, and I just want to talk about it. So if anyone ends up watching it, hit me up. But what shows, movies, etc. have you started watching solely because of an actor or someone involved in it?
Broadchurch, which ended up being a pleasant surprise.
Same. Yes.
Started it for our friendly neighborhood David Tennant and ended up very thoroughly invested in the story.
So invested. Oh,
So
that was a
I was
good
just
one.
I have to know. Tell me what happened to the little boy. Very sad show, but worth your time and would highly recommend it. Also,
Yeah.
Olivia Colman is now one of those people I added onto my list of people I can easily identify just by voice because I've seen so much of her stuff now. So, yeah, Broadchurch.
Okay. So I have something on the complete other end of the spectrum. So I loved Ocean's 11. I guess like the remake or whatever. Which of course stars George Clooney and Brad Pitt. So I then made the mistake several years later of going to see Burn After Reading, which also stars George Clooney and Brad Pitt. And then I didn't learn my lesson, and I went and saw The Men Who Stare at Goats, which stars George Clooney and Brad Pitt, thinking there is no way that this could be as bad as the other one. Also, sorry, Brad Pitt is not in The Men Who Stare at Goats, but George Clooney is. But yes, I saw all of those, and Ocean's 11, good. Other two, not so much. So here we are.
Several years later,
Yes.
regretting your choices.
Yes. And then longtime listeners will know that we used to do a must-see movie of the week. And Chris recommended us doing, I think it's Swiss Army Man. which stars Daniel Radcliffe. I cannot unsee that movie. And I feel like that movie hurt my soul.
A good way or a
in
bad
a
way?
very bad way.
Okay.
Do not recommend. And so I don't know why I can only think of like sad things for this, but here we are.
Yeah, that reminds me, I watched one with Elijah Wood in it. It was not the Elijah Wood I am accustomed to. It's not great. I don't even remember what it was called anymore, but
I feel like that's often the case with actors who hold at least like iconic roles, whether they're iconic roles for most people or just for yourself. Like when you see something else that they're in, like for the longest time in my head, I'm so disappointed in myself. I always saw what's his face as Mr. Tumnus.
yeah. James McAvoy.
Yeah, like he was in my head always just Mr. Tumnus. And
Yep.
then I watched X-Men in high school with my friends. One of the first things I ever saw that had him in it, other than Narnia, and I just went, "Guys, it's Mr. Tumnus! What is he doing? This isn't right. He's supposed to be a fawn with a red scarf." And they're just like, oh, my dear Emma. Prepare to be saddened.
I don't know. I feel like in general, everything I can think of makes me sad. Like with this question of like, there's so many things where it's like, I really liked this person in this movie. And so then I saw this other thing they were in and it was awful. Like maybe that's just because like I bandwagon on like whoever is like that super popular person right now. And then like they start being in everything and obviously something's got to be bad. But I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at.
I once had someone completely like bash people for like bandwagoning on things and like say you're a horrible person if you jump on the bandwagon of something that's becoming popular, like just to be cool. And I was just like, I mean, how else would that person or thing become popular?
Right.
Like, people are always going to, quote unquote, jump on the bandwagon. But 9 times out of 10, it's because they enjoy that thing, not because they want to fit in. Like, that's how that thing becomes popular. I don't know.
In chat, Panda Boy says, I've seen every Emma Watson movie. I feel like as far as like celebrities go, like that's a pretty good selection.
Yeah.
Like if you had to take like, now granted I haven't seen all of her movies, so don't at me. But like, you know, like our super toxic community, whatever, like that one, but I'm just kidding. Our community is amazing.
Yeah.
But
I love
like,
you guys.
but I feel like if you had to take a sample of, like someone from Hollywood, I feel like Emma Watson's a good, like, nothing's going to be awful. I feel like maybe that's where I'm trying to get at. Assuming, of course, you like Harry Potter. But, like, because if you don't, it's going to be a rough, like, 15 hours or however long those movies take. But
seriously, a rough selection of time.
Okay. And what based on a true story shows have you enjoyed?
I mean, the first thing that came to my mind were Jane Austen movies. Because that, in my mind, counts as based on a true story, even though it's not. I mean, when it comes to based on true stories, I'm a documentary kind of person.
me
So.
too, which is why my choice is Tiger King. The best based on a true story ever. Is it fiction? Possibly. But it's close enough that there's enough people that seem to be real and incriminate themselves in this documentary that I feel like it's real. But yeah, I loved Tiger King. I mean, it was a train wreck, but like, I think it is a masterclass in like documentary storytelling.
What not to do.
Yes, and of course, like how not to live. Like, don't be like these people. But yeah, just in terms of like how that was, I think when it came out, like the thing I was telling people is like, if I wrote fiction, it would make me sad because I don't think I could write a fake story as well as they told that real one. Now, granted, I'm also not a writer, so like, you know, my bar for like what I could write is obviously very limited, but I just feel like it's that type of thing. But oh man,
Y'all ever have an ear just suddenly start itching on you?
been there.
My left ear is welcome, audio listeners. My ear is bothering me right now.
Audio listeners, is your ear bothering you? Let us know in the comments down below. Panda Boy calls out in chat, there was a story about a tiger getting loose recently. There was indeed.
Oh, I saw that.
There was indeed. And then I think...
the owner ran away with it.
Yes.
Shoved it into a van and ran away with it.
Yeah. And I want to say it was in Singapore, but I could be completely wrong. Like 3 leopards escaped the zoo and were just roaming around because the zoo refused to, like, they didn't want to cause a panic. Now I have to look.
That's exactly how you cause a panic.
Right. I feel much worse now that I knew that these leopards escaped. Now I'm going to have to Google. It was not. It was in China, but it was the Hangzhou Safari Park. Yes. So, yeah, 3 leopards. They didn't tell anyone. This is literally a plot point of one of the episodes of Tiger King, is what would happen in this situation. So here we are.
Yeah. Apparently, a tiger in Houston also got loose for a week. Oh.
Yep.
Fun.
Here we are.
Meanwhile, I'm over here wishing that I could have a wolf dog because that would be a brilliant idea.
I mean, it couldn't be worse than having a tiger.
It's just about the same level of possible danger, just slightly more cute. Actually, more friendly. Same level of cute, just more friendly.
Janine, what are your picks for true stories?
I mean, I'm really into like British royal history, so I've really been enjoying The Crown. And speaking of Jenna Coleman, Victoria.
Good choices. I've not seen all of The Crown, but I did enjoy the parts of it that I watched.
Such a pretty show. I like to rewatch episodes of The Crown to like just to watch for things I learned in school. Because there's so many good examples of it. It's such a pretty show.
Okay, so for me, this week, I've recently been back into No Man's Sky because of the latest update. And they added this thing called expeditions, which is basically a set of tasks. And as you complete them, you unlock more stuff. And then as you accomplish like the higher like level things, you get things that you unlock on your account for all of your characters. And today, the second expedition launched. And so started playing that a bit this afternoon. And it's a ton of fun because it's basically like, it's almost like a puzzle of like how quickly could you finish this, that kind of thing. Where it's like, okay, so I need to do all these tasks, but if I complete this task, it'll unlock this thing, which will get me this other task. And it kind of like has this like snowball effect. And so there's a kind of this interesting like management side of it in that regard as you like, again, try to like get through it, not necessarily as quickly as possible, but there's ways that you can kind of get through it quicker. And that kind of got me thinking. I know we've talked a lot on the podcast before about how No Man's Sky was not great at launch, and then they kind of revitalized it, and now it's amazing. And so I kind of got thinking on that, and I guess with that, my question for y'all, it doesn't have to be as drastic as No Man's Sky, is what is something that like there has been an update or a change to that has like changed your perspective? So
Of that thing.
Yeah, that's changed. So like it could be like to use Cursed as the example. Don't go watch it on Netflix. But like it could even be something like the second episode of Cursed was really good and it redeemed the whole thing. Like that kind of thing. But yeah, so what has gotten you, even if something you liked to begin with, what has gotten you to buy all in? Or I guess even then the opposite. I was thinking positive, but you know, you do you.
I don't know if this really counts as a full answer, but I've probably said this before and will likely say it again. I don't think the fourth Toy Story movie was necessary, and I don't think it was very good. Like, I feel like the way they finished off 3 was a strong ending point, and they could have just left it there, and 4 was highly unnecessary. Don't think it was needed.
Yeah. I enjoyed the fourth one, but my take was it was the best movie I didn't want. Of like, I completely agree that it should have just ended at 3. And like, as far as like forced sequels go, I thought it was pretty good. But like, I don't think
it wasn't a bad movie.
Right, yeah.
It was just like, now my experience of the first 3 movies is going to be rather tainted to some extent because this fourth one exists.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Like for me, they went from having a strong ending to a bit of an iffy, weak one.
I can definitely see that. Janine, what about you?
The only one to come to mind for me right now is Doctor Who, when they stopped having Stephen Moffat as a writer. And you could tell.
And you could tell.
I have so many bones to pick.
I have so many. I feel.
I would definitely have to agree with you on that one.
We need to pick our Doctor Who watch back up because definitely behind in terms of like we were watching pretty consistently and now we've just kind of fallen off. But like we're towards the end where I think it's about that point and it was just kind of like, or we could just not. Kind of one of those things. But it was funny watching it and like it's one of the first shows that I feel like since they put like the main writer up on every episode where it very much becomes this one was written by this person. Whereas I feel like for a lot of like American shows, like you think of like the showrunner, but like I couldn't necessarily tell you like who the writers were of the show.
So the hierarchy of a television show is different from that of a movie in terms of like set and offset. So on a TV show, the writers and the editors have more power, technically speaking, than the director. because the director rotates from episode to episode, whereas the writers and the editors are there for the entire season. So, like, you would think that the writers, or at least the head writers, get some more attention because they've been keeping track of what's going on.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I didn't know for a long, like, I'm going to say for a long time, probably until, like, a couple years ago. I did not know that. Like, and it was one of, like, I could definitely, like, identify tonally where, like, directors changed in TV shows. But, like, I didn't like, understand that they was just, like, going through it. And, like, even on, like, Office Ladies and Fake Doctors Real Friends, they talk a lot about, like, this is the time that we got this super famous director to come in and direct this episode. Things like that. And it's like, yeah, that was just something that I completely, like, I just assumed it worked kind of like a movie did. And obviously I was wrong.
No.
But
So
Yeah.
the showrunner is essentially the showrunner of a TV show is essentially the director of a movie. It's the same level of power. The more you know.
yeah, the more you know. Like, it's one of those. I think it's always super interesting to learn how
Which
all
is
that
also
shakes
why
out.
you get in a lot of shows a lead actor who will direct an episode or two, because there's more flexibility within who's going to be a director, because they're lower on the hierarchy.
Right.
They're not like super far down, but they're still like lower than if you were on a movie set. So yeah, this has been your mini film school lesson from Emma.
And I guess with that, for me, the big one that comes to mind, and even kind of almost as like a segue kind of thing, is Parks and Rec. Where like as a show, that show's first season, I think, is its weakest one, and then season 2 definitely like kicks everything into high gear, and that's where it definitely feels like it gets its legs and starts running and doesn't really slow down from there. But yeah, that's definitely one of those, like, obviously not like rags to riches, because they had great cast, they had great like showrunners and all that stuff. It just took them a little bit to find their voice. But yeah, that was the big one that came to mind as I was like trying to like think through the things that I like. And then like, and I think I said this maybe even last week or the week before, but it was last week, was like Empire Strikes Back, where you have the success that is Star Wars, and then have Empire, which is arguably one of the best sequels ever made. And it's just like, again, it's one of those, of course, like, I mean, for us, we're like, obviously we didn't see that in theaters, but like growing up and just being like I think of Star Wars more as Empire than I do as A New Hope, or like that's like the one that comes to mind. The imagery that's in my head is Empire. But listeners, let us know what's something that has changed your perspective from better for worse. Also, I looked in my background and I was reminded that a worst was Treasure Island. Go check out that book club. That book definitely changed my perspective on how I felt about it. But
Benefits of book club, you'll learn
right.
things.
Yeah, I learned that the story is adapted much better than the actual story.
What do you know?
Yeah, what do you know? So for some announcements, as Shanine said at the top of the show, streaming Pokemon again. And then we also might have a Wednesday stream. More news to come on that. And then not this week, but next week is book club. So if you're like me and got your book yesterday and haven't started it because you realized it was not the book you thought it was that we had the audiobook for, we're in for a week.
I don't know if I should probe into that or not?
I mean, it's not really. There was a book that we had, an audiobook that we had started on a trip. And when Shanine was talking, I guess after the end of the last book club was talking to us about this, I was like, oh, we started that. Kind of like where I was at with Serafina, where we'd started the audiobook for it. And then I was talking to Deanna about it, and she's like, I've never heard of that in my life. And it was a completely different book. So I went from being about halfway done to now needing to start the book.
Here's the real question. Are y'all reading the author's preferred text? Or does it not say the author's preferred text on the cover?
Mine is the author's preferred text.
Cameron doesn't know.
Mine was the
So
top
there's
one on
like-
Amazon.
So
a-
it has, there's like 3 different versions based on what Neil Gaiman's publishers recommended. My guess is you're probably reading author's preferred text because pretty much anyone who reads Neil Gaiman at this point goes for author's preferred text. But if not, you're going to have some changes to your book that are going to be different from ours.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be the plot twist for when, like, my favorite part was blah, blah, blah. And then that's not in the actual book because the author hated it and it just, like, completely
Or just like,
reveals my stance on
what?
it.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, like how poor my literary tastes are as I pick, like, all the parts that the author changed later, like that kind of thing. But,
Cameron, what are you talking about?
man. But yeah, so looking forward.
Cover, then it's
It is. Well, mine's I think I got the illustrated one because I like pictures. So
okay. I have a feeling it's going to be author's preferred text then.
I will let you know, and I'll post in
But
the Discord.
there is like 3 different versions, so just putting that out there for anyone listening.
Again, I just cannot wait. So this reminds me, I'm gonna sidetrack us before we get into our top 3. So one of my favorite like podcast channels is Kind of Funny, and one of the things that they do is a in review, where they pick a movie series and they basically start at the beginning of the series, and then every episode is one movie. So they've done like all of the MCU and things like that, but they'll also do like one-off series. And I forget what it was. It might have been Man of Steel, but there was one that they did where half of them watched the director's cut and the other half didn't watch the director's cut.
On accident or on purpose?
Completely on accident.
Okay.
Because I forget what it was. Again, I forget the specific movie, but like if it was Man of Steel, it was because HBO Max had one version, but the other people had it on Blu-ray and it was the other version. Like that kind of thing. And so they watched 2 different movies and did not realize until like halfway through the episode when
they were just talking about completely different things.
that like people were describing scenes that other people had completely missed and things like that. And so
complete chaos.
So things occurred. And so but I guess with that, let's jump into our top 3 for the week. We're talking about our top 3 spinoffs. And before we share ours, we do have a social media response from the Mountain Nerds. Go check out their podcast. And so as I like frantically scroll, because I, of course, forgot to get it open ahead of time. And the Mountain Nerds say, I thought though short-lived, I really liked the spinoff of the Goldbergs called Schooled, which I had not heard of the Goldbergs. And so they say the creator of the show tells about his life in the 80s, especially with his relationships with his family and overbearing mother. So let's get into ours. Emma? Start us off.
Doctor Who chapter books, which are little bite-sized spin-offs of just, I mean, they're essentially Doctor Who adventure episodes and chapter books. But I consider them spin-offs in their own little worlds. And they're a lot of fun because you get, like, characters interacting that you don't see interacting on screen. So you get like the Fourth Doctor interacting with the Amy Pond or whoever.
Mhm.
Like you just get these fun combinations of characters that you don't get on screen, and more adventures than you don't otherwise get, and they're just fun things to read. And there's many different authors who the BBC hires to write these, so people get their chance at writing for Doctor Who. Like it's just something you write for if you're a writer in England. But Doctor Who chapter books, they're a lot of fun,
Mhm.
and they're typically super easy to read. So I had those just one of my fun spin-offs.
Do you have a favorite one?
There was one I really liked. I don't remember the name of it, but it was the 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory. It was kind of a cross between Weeping Angels, the Western episode with the cyborg,
Mm.
and like Rory forgetting who he was and slowly fading out of existence. And
That
it was
escalated.
a lot of yeah. But like it's due to this cyborg creature. Oh, and there was a time loop. It was just I don't remember what it was called. I read it a couple of years ago, but it was a lot of fun, and I have it still somewhere, in a box, or else I'd show it to you. But I mean, there's so many that have been written at this point that you can just find several online and listen to them. So
I have a
Or read
book
'em.
of Doctor Who fairy tales.
yeah, I have that too.
Yeah, that one's fun.
Yeah.
Shanine, what do you got?
Okay, apparently I don't do spin-offs like ever. And if I have, they're bad. So I'm having a hard time picking something. I guess we'll go with Fantastic Beasts for the first one. It was very enjoyable. I felt like Harry Potter kind of grew up with its audience, and then
Mhm.
Fantastic Beasts felt like for the adult audience of Harry Potter fans. It was very fun. And all the new beasts and stuff are cool.
Also, what's happening with the third movie there?
I don't know.
Yeah. Things are occurring. But,
Questionable things,
yeah.
which we have talked about in
Yeah.
my cinematic ethics class,
Oh, yeah.
courtesy of certain people involved with the third movie.
Yeah.
Certain well-known people. So, yeah.
So,
Whole conversation for another time.
yeah.
Yes.
So my first pick, it's kind of in line with Emma's, and that's Lost Stars, which is a Star Wars book that takes place leading up to Episode 7. And kind of like Shanine, I feel like a lot of my thing with spin-offs is I only like spin-offs in main continuity, or like that actually like pertain to the overall plot. And so like I feel like a lot of the like complete side things I don't really do. But I liked Lost Stars, even though it is basically all side characters. None of them like, I mean, Princess Leia shows up, but like none of the actual characters are prominent elsewhere in the series or anything like that. But I really enjoyed that. It's a pretty quick read as far as things go. Like it's a young adult book, so it's not like super complicated or super deep in that regard. But I really enjoyed that. So that is my first one.
Cool. Since we're on the topic of Harry Potter, I would like to say / my number 2, one of my very first proper exposures to Harry Potter was Star Kids: A Very Potter Musical, which is my number 2, which is a spoof / spin-off because it's a spoof, but then they just sort of make up some of their own stuff um, along the way. Yeah, just random humor and songs and stuff, and just
I really
the kind of
wish,
humor I entertain in sometimes.
as someone who like came across that well after the fact, I really wish they would get back together and re-record.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
like it's not,
like
it's not
the
great.
final like a Harry Potter senior year is high quality. Like they did it for a conference or something, and then the second one was also better recorded. But the first one that really kicked it all off for them, they recorded for the cast to have access to. They didn't mean for it to like blow up, and they just recorded it for the one weekend that they did it essentially and put it on YouTube so that the cast could have access to it. And then suddenly people found it and were like, "This thing is genius." So
yeah, like it's so good, but I forget where it is. But there's one point where like the mics cut out basically, and it's just like you can barely hear them. And like again, it's amazing. Highly recommend. Great pick, Emma.
Yeah.
But like it's one of those that I just really wish they would like somewhere there's got to be a better way to get it recorded. Like.
Yeah. Well, and that also really kicked off Darren Chris's career, like who is the guy who played Harry Potter in those shows. It really got him. It got him his role on Glee in great part. So, like, that just goes to show that a parody, stupid, and dumb idea that you have can really go a long ways. So.
Okay, my second one is Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, which was a spin-off of Once Upon a Time. I think it only had like one season, but I enjoyed it a lot more than the original show. I think the characters were more interesting and the plot was a bit more original instead of like, oh no, there's a curse. Oh, we broke it. Oh no, there's a curse. Oh, we broke it. Just like on repeat. And
Yeah, Once Upon a Time really like I really hit a wall with that show after like season 2. It really dragged. Maybe halfway through season 2. I was just like, okay, you've hit a wall, guys.
yeah, I kind of keep picking it up because I still really like Rumple.
Yeah.
But then I'll just like forget that I'm watching it.
He's a character with potential, I'll say that much.
It's like, Netflix asks, are you still watching? He's like, you know what? I wasn't. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. But yeah, Once Upon a Time in Wonderland was actually pretty cool. And I wish it had gone a bit longer.
I didn't know they did a spin-off. Good to know.
For me, my number 2 is the stretch of the list, and that's The Farm, which was a supposed to be spin-off of The Office, focused on Dwight. And it ends up that a lot of the footage that they used for a lot of the ideas for The Farm get folded into season 9 of The Office. And there's basically like an arc. There's an episode in season 9 called The Farm. But it basically ties a lot of those ideas of what he had been up to into that last season. And while I definitely understand why it would not have like been its own spinoff, I do really like that part of that season. And it's one of those things that I feel like kind of falls into that category of like, it's enough to be good, but not too much to like wear you out, like that kind of thing, where I definitely don't think I could have handled a full season, but for what it was, I really enjoyed it. And I think it's especially for season 9, I think it's one of the better plot lines that we got going on. So
Yeah, I don't think I could have done a whole show about Dwight, but I do love that plot line.
and it's so like the way that they set up his I don't want to say his culture, but like the way they set up all of the stuff that like
His world.
yeah his world, it's so interesting. And I think that getting glimpses into like it's almost one of those things of like in horror where like the monster's scarier if you don't show the monster.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of how it was with Dwight's like background. It's like it's funnier when it's drip fed versus being like, and here's everything. Like but yeah. So that's my second one. The farm. Emma, what you got?
For my number 3, I will preface this with this spin-off is more adulty than the show it's spun off from. So the show is Doctor Who, very childlike, and the spin-off is Torchwood, which is more for the adult fans. I would preface that with. In other words, don't watch Torchwood with your kids. But it's a decent show. Follows Captain Jack. Gives an insight into his world. And the things he's up to. I mostly picked it because it's fun look into in some ways, how we get the face of Bo, but indirectly. But also just like, oh look, it's the things he's just running around doing. So, yeah.
So I will say I did not know this had existed, and I was super confused to who all these characters were when they show up in Doctor Who proper.
Yeah.
Because I was not aware of it, and I was just like, I mean, like obviously I got Captain Jack, but I was just like, but who's what?
Who's this random guy they keep
yeah.
referencing?
And I was just like super like had no clue what was going on, but here we are.
You get more of the fun technology and alien invasions, but from the standpoint of someone who's very much stationary on the planet. So, yeah. I also don't do spin-offs very much either, so that was just a one I know about that I'd seen.
Yeah. I haven't watched any of it yet, or it would have been on my list too.
Funny. Haven't seen it in a while, but
Okay. My last one we'll do Star Trek: The Next Generation. Feel like I had to.
I feel like you had to. So as someone that knows like nothing about Star Wars, why?
Star Wars?
Star Wars. I know more about Star Wars. About Star Trek. Thank you, Emma.
I was gonna say, Cameron, that's not right.
I have not actually seen any of the original Star Trek, but I quite enjoy The Next Generation.
A watch.
I mean, I'll probably get to it eventually. There's just so much Star Trek. There's so much. But I think The Next Generation is kind of a good entry point. Like, it's still one of the older series, but it's not like too old and like cheesy and stuff. It's still super cheesy, but yeah, I don't know. I like it. It's fun. And the characters are all, I don't know. I love them all.
I feel like it's one of those like super iconic things that I just never got into. Like it's one of those that like, and I don't even know why I didn't get into it with my love of like sci-fi and especially like sci-fi that's focused on like exploring the universe. Like it's one of those things that it just seems like I should like, and I just never got into. But much to Chris's dismay. But
I wasn't originally going to get into Star Trek. Like, it just seemed one of those, like, Star Trek fans like it, but I'm not a Star Trek fan. And then my friend started sending me scenes about Data. And I was like, well, I have to watch it now.
I guess for me, my number 3 is there had to be a Kingdom Hearts thing on the list. And so it's Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which is the PSP prequel to Kingdom Hearts 1. I'd argue the best game in the series. But it very much sets up, like, I think it came out after Kingdom Hearts 2, and it like kind of sets up the meta narrative for what's going on. Or maybe it came out leading up to Kingdom Hearts 2 or something like that. But it kind of sets up the bigger conflict that then is what Kingdom Hearts 3 is really about. So it's one of those that like, and I think that this is some of the challenge with Kingdom Hearts and why people think the Kingdom Hearts plot is super convoluted, is it's because, well, you just need to have played every game on like 8 different platforms. And
I will always ask this. Which one is Kingdom Hearts and which one is the Disney one?
The Disney one is Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the other one I'm thinking of then?
I'm not sure.
Final Fantasy?
Final Fantasy is also in Kingdom Hearts, yes. Yes, it's like half
Maybe
Disney,
those
half
are
Final
the two
Fantasy.
I constantly mixed up. I always get Kingdom Hearts mixed up with something else.
Mm-hmm. It does. It is made by the same company that does Final Fantasy, so they like bring
Is
in.
Kingdom Hearts the one with the giant keys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I will ask this question every time it comes up.
That's quite all right. But yeah, so like they borrow a lot from Final Fantasy,
Okay.
and then pull in a lot of.
Is Final Fantasy the one that just released a remake of
Yes.
one of their? Okay, so yeah, I always get Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy mixed up.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. I just do.
Oh, it's a super easy mistake. Like again, especially because like so many characters from Final Fantasy are in Kingdom Hearts, and they just have different versions. But yeah, so Birth by Sleep has my favorite cast of the game, my favorite trio. Aqua is the best and deserved much better. Yeah, it's a great take. It sets up a lot of the bigger narrative. And so it's kind of it feels weird to call it a spinoff because again, it's almost air quotes mandatory. Like it's one of those that like you definitely need to have understood the plot of that game to understand the bigger plot going on, but it's not numbered. So I'm going to count it as a spinoff. And so listeners, let us know your favorite spinoffs, whether on our social media or in Discord. You can find us all over the place. And I don't know why I'm already segueing into our outro. But I guess we don't currently have a top 3 plan for next week. So we'll get that sorted out and get that out on social medias leading up to next week's episode. Hopefully we'll have something in the show notes of this, so you can head over to YouTube and social media, or YouTube and our website, and find out what that top 3 for next week is gonna be. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. We already got our announcements. Check out Shanine's stream tomorrow, and then for real outro this time, listeners, as always, you can find us as One Geek 411 over on our social media and join that Discord server. If you want to chat between shows, you can check out our website, onegeek411.com, and send us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out the Redbubble store, where you can get that merch, and check out our Twitch streams to be part of the post-show chats. And then you can like, comment, and subscribe over on the YouTube. And then you can rate and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And then You can always connect with us on our personal social medias. Mine's Hugh Marwhittle.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I in the prepared.
I'm the Hoot and Howl on Twitter and Hoot and Howl Tales, TALES, on Instagram.
And it's been a great week.
Dog.
Read a book.